Right, Sean. I'm going to talk about the unemployment stats that came out from the ONS this
Oh,
week.
yeah.
And headlines, just two headlines. We've hit a 5-year high, which is obviously not good news. Unemployment rate rose to 5.2%, and that's in the 3 months to December. So it's the highest level since 2021, which is obviously the second of the COVID years. A sharp rise, something that does genuinely concern me, in youth unemployment. It's my second stat. Youngsters' employment rate, 18 to 24-year-olds, has increased to its highest level since 2015, with reports indicating nearly 250,000 workers under 34 have fallen off payrolls since mid-24. So it's pretty grim reading, if I'm honest. Now, the obvious place to go with that, I think there's two obvious places to go as to why is this happening. And the most obvious place is to go back to the first Rachel Reeves budget. So that's October, I think it was, 2024, when, as I'm sure listeners will remember, the national insurance rate for employers went up by 1.2%. And the threshold at which they have to pay tax went down, from £9,100 salary to 5,000. In other words, it costs a lot more to hire youngsters. So that's I think one of the key drivers of this. And the second thing, which is very difficult to prove, but it would sort of make sense at some of the younger end, is the influence of artificial intelligence. More and more firms are integrating artificial intelligence, and it will be happening very gradually. But you would hypothesize that a lot of the roles that these firms are replacing are those where AI is quite a utility, and the more lower skilled end can be replaced by an AI. Haven't got any evidence for that, so that's more of a
I'm
hypothesis.
sure you're right. Sounds feasible. I
Yeah.
mean,
and the third thing, which we mustn't forget, and I'm not arguing about whether we should have done it or not, but the impact of the increases in the minimum wage ahead of RPI, that's just made it more costly for a business to employ that extra person. So it's a concern, and I actually don't know if the government knows what to do about it, if I'm honest.
well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because contrary to what you're saying, whilst the unemployment rate has gone up, there are more people employed than there ever have been before at the other end. So it's not, we've got more people. That's effectively what's happening. And that's why unemployment, I take on board what you're saying with especially younger people not being employed. I think there is a question as to what's going on there. And we've also got this issue we've had for a long while in terms of a lot of young people actually claiming long-term sickness benefits, which is something that the government have been trying to tackle.
So these are the NEETs?
Yeah,
not in
employed.
Education, employment, or training.
Yeah, I think so.
Million, isn't it? It's a million is the figure I recall.
Yeah. And I think part of that is to do with, we've had this debate, haven't we, about the business rate in terms of hospitality and retail and the pubs.
Crippling.
You say that, but what we're doing is reverting back to where we were before COVID. They were given relief during COVID, and as we've come out of COVID, they've restored business rate back to where it was before. So it's nothing. So
they've also increased the rateable values.
Yeah, they've increased the rate. They reassessed rateable value, which is what happens generally anyway. On occasion,
well, it's gone up.
Yeah, it's gone up. Yeah, it will have gone up. Yeah.
It's gone up and then it's gone up again.
They are
the facts.
They got a 15% discount from this government in respect to that, but they've come back from where they were before COVID. You couldn't have expected that total relief to carry on forever.
No, I agree with that.
Well, I think
I agree with that.
I think that there's an overall problem, isn't there? With retail and hospitality, they've got extra expenses with regard to how much they're paying for food and drink, for example, to stuff that's coming into the country, and the price of food and drink and inflation. So people aren't going out as much. They can't afford to go out as much. We've got pubs closing. That's not just to do with business rate. I appreciate it's not necessarily going to help. But when you're in a position where you've given a discount because people can't go out, that's a lot different to having to attract business when people are out and about and effectively doing what they were doing before, isn't it? Now she's gone ahead, hasn't she, with pubs? There's big hoo-ha going on at the moment because cafes haven't had the same
No.
dispensation that she's given pubs, and I can
Yeah, I mean,
understand
that's clearly that's preaching to the galleries, isn't it? That one, pubs, because it's that emotional tie. Oh, the British and the pubs. But
yeah,
I think many more of us go to cafes than they do to pubs.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But I mean, you've got young lads, and well, not young lads. They're not anymore. They're adult men now, aren't they? At the end of the day,
very much so.
Things have changed, haven't they? People don't go to pubs as much as they once used to. They don't go as regularly.
I actually think that, from what I see, I think they do. I think because they're either side of 30 and they come from a different generation. I think it's the millennials and Gen Zs. The sort of
the
25-ish and down. They're the ones who don't, because they really are struggling.
Yeah.
But this was less about pubs, and I don't want to go down that alley. This is more the high level. And I definitely think that because the national insurance increases was a 25 billion tax per annum tax, which all went to employers. So you can't raise that much tax without there being a knock on. And that has definitely been an issue. You've got the cost of hiring people, and then you've got obviously concerns about the Employment Rights Bill, which is now law because that was enacted in December. So I think there's something going on here. And then my fourth thing is the AI. I think
you had to up here though. How do you explain that more people are employed now than ever before? Because if your argument holds true.
If that's true, I saw that what's his name, McFadden, was claiming that, and I think it's lies and statistics. That's probably true because the population is growing, but everything should be equal, because then you should have more people in work, but the economy should be bigger because the population is growing, and clearly it isn't. And therefore, businesses who still exist are cutting costs because the cost of hiring people is so much greater. That's my theory.
Less people employed.
No,
if that were the case.
No, because you've got more people in the country.
Yeah, but you'd still have less people employed than
No, you wouldn't.
You would.
No, because there are more people in the country, so they should be buying.
We're not talking percentages. We're talking figures.
No, I do understand that. I'm very good with figures.
If businesses were cutting back, you'd have less people employed. You wouldn't have more people employed.
Not if there are a greater population.
No, you would. No. You'd have, if businesses were cutting back, the same number of businesses were cutting back, you'd have less people employed. You wouldn't have more people employed.
I think you could do in a scenario where there are more people in the country. But look, let's not split hairs.
Why not? I want to split hairs.
Because
you came on here to attack the unemployment figures, and yet you can't you can't answer the simple question: why are there more people employed?
Yeah, but what I did is presented a range, because I could ask you the question in the other direction. I haven't heard a single answer from you yet. I am saying that there are 4 reasons why I think the unemployment rate is going up, and it's going up month after month after month. The January figures were worse. And I don't think anyone could deny they are a matter of fact, other than the AI one, which is just difficult to prove. But you're using AI. Yeah. I'm using AI. In fact, we're probably going to be AI generated by the time this airs. So we are, aren't we? They're going to clean up all of our nonsense,
absolutely.
Which means the pod will be
won't
very,
be much
very
left
short.
of it.
So that was a very logical, and you've sort of hooked onto one figure. We're not really understanding it, but okay, that's fine.
No. How dare you? How very dare you?
Quite easily, to be honest.
I just think there are you're trying to. I can see what you're trying to load it predominantly on government action, and I don't think it. And no, I don't think it is.
So you don't think?
No. Hold on, let me finish. No, let me finish, because I haven't finished my point yet. Just let me finish. The point that I'm trying to make is I agree with you that we have a lot of younger people that are unemployed, and that is an issue that we need to look at.
That's a disaster.
But we also need to look at changing habits within the country. And this is what I was getting at just now in terms of pubs and restaurants. And people they haven't got the money to be able to go out and spend. So hospitality is changing. I mean, once upon a time, we used to have, in each town, half a dozen cinemas. People don't go to the cinema anymore, so they've closed down. Same thing is happening in hospitality, that things are changing. People stay at home and drink and eat. Well, supermarkets are doing fine. However, supermarkets are not employing more people because you've pointed out they're using AI, they're using self-checkouts, they're using delivery. So we're not moving employment as we maybe once did from one sector to the other. We're losing it altogether. And I think this is something that we need to look at, and we need to, we can have a whole pod on this, can't we? How we're going to adapt with a changing employment environment, and how we're going to make sure that people have got sufficient money to be able to survive.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a more rounded answer, but I'm asking you this genuinely. Do you really think that the 25 billion pound tax hike on employers, increase in the minimum wage, and the Employment Rights Bill had no effect on the level of unemployment?
No, I didn't say that.
No, you didn't. But it was implied. I'm just asking.
No, I didn't.
But if you didn't say that, but answer the question, yes or no. Very simple.
No.
Yes or no.
I don't say it didn't have any effect. But the point that I would say and make, I think the idea that there's a direct correlation, I don't agree with. If you're running
so you're saying no then?
I'll come back to any business. If you're running a hardware store or what have you, for example, and you need 3 people to serve the number.
It doesn't exist anymore. But
you need 3 people to serve the number of customers you've got coming in on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody puts up your national insurance costs doesn't mean to say that you can suddenly get rid of one of those people. It's nonsense. This idea that if you cut national insurance, businesses will be going out there to invest and opening new plants, rubbish. There's an element of that. It's not anywhere near as big as one likes to think. I think it's a political argument, and I don't think it holds true.
Well, we could argue about different businesses and those businesses who employ more people where you would try and absorb the stretch, as it were. And just anecdotally, I think I do see that in the service industry when I go out and about, have a meal out or something. It just seems to be.
You wait an hour and a half for your meal to turn up now then rather than 10 minutes.
That has actually happened. No, seriously, joking apart, that seems to happen more than it did, but that's anecdotal. So I've tried to stick to the facts because you can't beat a good fact.
Yeah, there's no political narrative in what you're putting across at all.
I'm glad you agree with that. And I'm glad you agree with the fact this did have some effect. But anyway, as you say, a debate for another day.
I'm going to cut you off now.